acknowledge one another. We thank the leadership, Senator Spyglass as well, as we all bear witness here, as we acknowledge these people who set this up for us, kept us in comfort, and went out of their way to make sure that we were all taken care of. Give them all a big round of applause. Chiefs. Okay, I think we're ready for our first presentation. Yeah, she's busy at the moment. Can I take a message? Yeah, she's busy at the moment. Can I take a message? All right, we're gonna get right into it here, friends and relatives, with our first presentation. It's from the, oh man, Pimicikamak, is it? Pimicikamak Cree Nation, Cross Lake, Manitoba, where he spent 2 years at St. Joseph Residential School, a day school scholar, a 60 Scoop survivor, to dedicate much of his time to helping people overcome personal challenges through ceremonies, traditional medicines, the preservation of Nihio language and culture. Jeff recognizes the spirit within the tongue as he interprets the parable within Nihio, acknowledged among First Nation communities, and a spiritual leader and a traditional knowledge keeper. Make him welcome here to our gathering, Mr. Jeff Waistekoot.
I don't know if you heard that. No? Can we get some law and order at the back there? Bring greetings from my new adopted lands. I am Mark Thunder. We recently buried him. And we need to belong to one another. It's been many, many decades that this disruption happened. And this disruption came in the form of treaties that we were put on these from a chronological term of belonging to a certain number. And it really displays us about what we had with one another. I am one that is not proud to be a treaty person. It segregates me to a number. These treaties have brought many destructions and disruptions of who we are as peoples of these lands. Born in between two communities in the winter time. I came from an isolated community. My mother had given me birth in between these communities somewhere in the bush. A lot of memories go back to the old people. I survived the residential school system, but I also survived the 60 Scoop, where my language went to sleep on me. For 16 and eventually into group homes, and eventually graduated into the penal system. I still to Canada. I have a brother that's buried in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and one in Minneapolis. I don't know why. I had a lot of struggles with alcohol and drugs. It's in this time that I only went up and had a grade 7 education in the Western world. I veered off to the left and I began to learn from my elders. And this is what the history, the sad history, that they starved us from our language. They beat it out of us. I often wonder, why our people drank so much and done a lot of drugs and violence. And to answer that question is quite simple. When you oppress people, this is the reason why my people begin to utilize alcohol, is to simply change the way they feel. Still exists racism. We deal with this. Canada has not been We've yet to tell the people who we are as peoples of the lot of labels of identity. We've been called Indians, Cree, sovereign people. We are far from being sovereign. A lot of us don't carry the language. We've been so falsely assimilated. And for the health workers, I have a message for you from the elders. And violence. Be prepared to put something back. And the elders are saying, you have to put back their language, their culture, their ceremonies, and not one in that industrial world. Our people don't need to be programs. We don't need programs. We've been programmed since the signing of these treaties. We need our languages back. The call to action, there's very little bit of movement. To produce one Cree speaker. All because the foundation to our language is our land. As we begin a process utilizing a trilateral process, the education fail to imply and acknowledge the spirit. Our transformative way of recovering, and I don't want to use this word healing, is done. I want to share a little bit about the knowledge. The knowledge that lies within the confines of the language and the laws. Today, the methodology practices that are, we further tend to oppress by utilizing these terms. Within the archives of the Jesuit documents that lie in Winnipeg, and when I talk about a methodology, practices are used with the translation of a foreign language. Our language is limitless. When you take a look at the Webster Dictionary, it's that thick. Our dictionary is unlimitless. Our relatives, sinipo, tak, and this is how it sounds in the Western world, a siniboin. We know that this is part of us. They're a part of the infrastructure of Turtle Island. And same with many tribes. We are the ones, Nehilwak, that outnumber any nation on Turtle. And in 1979, upon returning back to my people that were born before the treaties were signed. In 1958, and he began to instruct the language that there is paradox and parables within where our people came from, that descended. Our creation story begins with here, Achaguiskog. Our Creator created us with thought and mind. And our elders continue to say, that are in the hospitals, that are struggling. We maintain those prayers. We know where our language comes from, which refers only to the sun. There's a longer language to this. We've just now shortened it to be reoriented to tell the creation of what these things are. So when I say Bisim, the longer version sounds like this. We shorten language. Even the word Chapan. When we say Chapan, there's a long in Winnipeg. This is what they speak about the peoples of these lands. And I want to make a quotation here because we're wrongfully translating ourselves. As we on look to them from a distance, they seem to take these willows and intertwine them, where they further cover it. And when they exit, they come out of there perspiring of sweat. We can only assume and call this a sweat lodge. Now, these are prescribed. Those terms, there's a story, a creation story to them as to how our people are going to reconnect because they've been disconnected to what they are doing. But they seem to have been dancing out in the sun for the past 4 days. Thus, they must be dancing to the sun. So in order to begin to connect to your ceremonies, the creation stories have fused. What just happened? Today, Wasagay na Nasko Simoin, when we talk about the round dance, and so our young people don't know any better, because the responsibility lies on Geteak to process the story. What do? It's a social event. Let's put our long eyelashes on. You know, our red lipstick. And I don't go to these particular ones because the Oriation, I don't carry this ceremony. But I know of it. I was mentored by the elders. They told me the creation story of all the four-legged animals that we live with in our that come. They told me about the creation story to every fish, plants that we live with. They had told me about my own human anatomy. Our teachings of transferring knowledge had stopped, and we've forgotten our way. We know where diseases come. The Spanish flu. When we eat out of law, when I talk about eating out of law, and these are airborne diseases, they talked about an animal that brought a disease. It's supposed to eat pigs. And this is what I promote about healthiness. Indian popcorn. That's starvation food. That's pig fat, created into this. These things, you have now taken the spirit of oppression, and you're going to become depressed. We know where diseases come from. About Macha spinewina, the sexual transmitted diseases. How did they come about? We came to know as AIDS. Egweski stagwan, and that anything you put in there, it doesn't accept it. That's what the elders said. But it's come so far ourselves. Knowing your status of where you come from, knowing your spiritual language. It was the Jesuit community. Elders couldn't help us because they could not understand this foreign language of suicide, that it was a Latin term. Because there was a language. And that residual effect, you're going to continue to see. Just like the Hiroshima, when they dropped the Magoma, they said, how are we going to begin a process of recovering? Not because it was a healthy community. We lost 49 young people within 28 days. It's not as bad now that we're beginning a process of returning to the young people, their language, their culture. Tsagawa, kitawi meat. Secondly, once the spirit becomes healthy and once the mind recovers, it is then and only then the body will recover. Right now, nobody will fund of how healthy a spirit is. And this is where we struggle as knowledge keepers and elders. Why I'm able and privy to open my mouth to share with you this knowledge. Within this confine, before I take you, and this is what the journey that we take upon, there are 10 stages. Your perception to that, oh, it's a baby, it's a newborn, and it's this, it's a gift, and so forth. No, what child means, it's a numbering system. It's a structural number that has been given to you. That is what we live by, the chronological clock. And they say, your time is almost up. Why today? So like I say, we are far from sovereign. The elders tell me that it's going to take well over 100 on the treaties to gather our knowledge and bring it forward, to utilize it in a way of life. These are the 10 passages. I'm not going to get into this, because why we utilize the symmetrical diamond. Time that we now begin to orient what is in this middle, the colors that we see, the blood. And this is how we translate. When we say Pimatsuan, what are you following? Today I struggle in following that life. Today it's very difficult to be young because there's so many disruptions. Them up, eh? We failed And we're still failing, and we're losing children. Our nations of relatives, I'm talking about fish, the winged ones, the four-legged ones, and the insects, the crawlers, to the original state of language. That's where our language lies, is out there. It's not in a cubicle in an institution. So anyhow, over to the east, and over to the south, and over to the west. Within these ones happen, in order for that spiritual doorway to open. And then when we begin to translate and try and transfer knowledge, we say, help me say this, Yotin. It does not mean wind. That is of the Spirit. When you feel it, see it, but you know it's there. Yotin, if I were to utilize this English language, here's what it sounds like. Yotin means opening. When they say Yotena, you hear that, eh? Yoten. It's a short form of opening. Yotena. But you also hear this 4 in the number 8. Neho, ena, neo. See that? So it means a transition. It's beyond the capacity that we now need to develop identities, to put that identity back. I see many signs say, Cree Nation, First Nation. This is what we talk about day nueven. Within these 8 doorways, we take sounds. Go over to Wapanuk or Sagastewanuk, we say wa, we, wo. 4 sounds. We're creating that directions. The land directions, the sky directions, and the water directions. Over to the south, we call this as Nehewaku. The animals are given birth to everything. We call this Sawi Chigewanuk, where the blessings lie. And so within this doorway, we take 4 sounds, sa, se, so. 4 sounds. Over to the west, we call this Nega Pewanuk, where the land as the sun, where it goes down. And also, the water direction, we call this Sagitawak. It's not Timik. We have forgotten about the greatest commodity that Creator had given us, life, is Nipi, the water. The very first one, we call this Apistiwa Pano Tao. And this is where the very first one, and this thunderbird was the one that blessed women with many gifts to bear life, to carry 4 sounds that we take from that spiritual doorway. So over here, the second one that Creator had created was Miginasho, Miginak, which is take the lead role of the 13 moon cycles. That anatomy is a part of you. When you take a look at these, your fingers here, these little 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. When spring and summer occur, and winter occur, they're on this side. So 14 and 14 is what? 20. It takes 28 days before a new moon occurs. a new full moon. Mishue Gawawit. Within these 30, the trees and plants, the four-legged, the fish, and the flight beings, and also the human nation. One where we receive, I know you're standing up, but I got the mic. So sit down. And everything that had a spirit had to have a specific name. That's why when we talk about Biesi Sak, there's many different species. You begin to understand sound and the physicalness of those spirits. And every tree and plant have a different species. So here is where we get the four sounds from this southwestern doorway. Cha, che, che, cho. And over here, he used the utmost truth. Da, te, te, do. So these lie within these directions. And when you push this, and yo sits around here, ya, yeah, yeah, yo. So this is how our language has been. Sounds, a lot of young people don't understand why we make these sounds. And people, non-indigenous people, try to mimic these sounds. You know, we're not making more thing, okay? Bear with me. Now they're going to try and tag team me up here. Both of them are standing. So I'm going to say this. This is one of my I give you this song because I just didn't want to parachute in here and parachute out and not leave you anything. This is a children's song. They call it Nishtama Wasuin. And in one of the spiritual doorways, okay? And there's no drum, no rattle. You sing this from the heart, eh? Way ya ya, way oh, way ya ya, way oh hey, way ya ya, way oh. What are these sounds that I am making? Every one of our songs are traceable. Way, oh, eh, way, ya, way, oh, way, ya. Doorway, the spirit of it, eh? So all the chicken dance songs, the ceremonial songs that came from the spirit world, this is what we're calling. Ever deny. I just say, don't play victim to your language. With that said, I thank you for lending me your ears, and may the Are you guys ready?
Another big round.
My gosh, every time I hear my Uncle Jeff, I'm just gonna call you my uncle. It's so invigorating to have that great time right now. We do have a quick little update when it comes to the washroom situation, and I'm gonna pass the buck until Cal to say it.
Side north. Nah, no, I'm just kidding. No, but seriously.